site is good. One of my friends, it's gonna start in like a few seconds. One of my friends did it in his pool, and his audio and like AV was way better than mine.
In his bowl. Do you want me vertical instead of horizontal?
Yes,
Great.
thank you. English is my second language.
Stereo. Well, not for me, but now it's a half and half.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Princess and the Pod. I am your host, Yvette, and today we have a very special guest, one of the first women in Perio who hopped on stage at the first ever Women in Perio conference, and it's Dr. Caroline Arceo. Arceo?
Arceo. Hi, how are you?
Hi, friend. Okay, can I tell you how nervous I was announcing you? I was. So Sarah and I were hosting, right? And we were MCs, but I have such a hard time with your last name.
Oh my God. Well, my maiden name is DiVincenzi.
Yeah.
Whenever people are like, Arceo, what an interesting last name, I'm like, oh, you only know. So I upgraded to a slightly easier name, but it's tough. Anytime you have a lot of vowels in there, it's like, what do I do with this?
It was really hard. And my admin was there and she like made sure that I knew how to say it, but I probably still butcher it. But anyways,
All
how
good.
are you, friend? How's everything going?
Twice a night, so not terrible,
Not bad.
doable.
Not too bad. When did you finish dental school? I think we're the same age-ish, right?
Yeah, I finished dental school 2016
Okay.
and then I finished residency 2019. So I worked for just a baby amount and then pandemic, wild ride to start the dental careers. Yeah, over 5 years, but shy of 10 years practicing in
Nice.
that kind of still early sweet spot, I'd say.
Yes. And then kids.
Kids, yeah. My daughter was born in 2022, so I had been at the current practice I'm at for 2 years. I was very transparent with my boss when I was interviewing for the position. I was like, I will work hard, but I will also play hard, and I definitely want to have kids. I was very clear about that.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't ask about that in an interview with
Right.
anybody, but I just felt it was, I'm an open book with most people. If anything, I'm too truthful. I'm very direct. So I was very clear. I was like, I want kids. I want at least two, likely just two, because I think we have the dream. I'm like, we have a boy and a girl, got man on man defense. If you have three or more, you're playing a zone and somebody's left out somewhere. So I think we're good on that front now.
Did you say man on man defense? Like we got a girl, we
Yes.
got a girl, we got a guy, we got a guy. Like we're even.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
all
it's like
fair.
you've got one parent on one kid, especially when you're traveling. It just makes life so much easier. No middle child syndrome, right? But I know my husband, he's like, we could still sneak one more in before you're 40. I'm 99% sure that will not be happening. But if there was, I don't know, maybe a happy accident, I could go to three, but it just seems like more chaos. If I was a lot younger, I guess I would be like, yeah, let's have four. And if my
Yeah.
husband was the surgeon in the family and I could stay home with the kids, I'd be like, yeah, let's keep rolling them out. But being pregnant and working and then having a child and, that battle of wanting to be home with your kids and your baby, especially when you're nursing, and then
Mhm.
also wanting to be there for my patients and my team at work because it's really tough to be out of the office for, a couple months. So it's just the battle of being in dentistry as a woman, right?
It is so wild. Were you pregnant at Scrubs and Scalpels or no?
Maybe.
I know. I'm like, so right after
Uh,
you had number two, Summer had her first, Sarah was very pregnant,
yeah.
emceeing, and that was like such a big deal. And I really wanted to do Women in Perio because when I started lecturing, you and I kind of were both starting to get like momentum at the same time.
Yeah.
But a lot of the like reps and like companies are like, it's a lot easier to get the guys because they can just like pack up and go. And I'm like, listen, we don't have kids, but I cannot imagine honestly, but it's still harder for us, I feel like, to just pack up and go. You're so good about traveling with your family too. And so to take
Yeah.
the whole family to like, rearrange your life for that weekend, yeah, it takes a little bit of an extra step, but it's so worth it in the end. But after that, like all the girls, Kelly shared her whole story with us. We're like, wow, like
Yeah.
it is so different. So For me, I would appreciate the honesty and transparency when I'm looking for an associate. If they're like, hey, this is my plan, this is what I want to do, because then you're at least aware and you're like, okay, how do we make this work? Because I really like this person. And
Yeah.
you're such a like go-getter and you work so hard, but yes, you also like to enjoy your life, which is,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I think life is worth living, and the most important thing we have in this life is time, right?
yeah.
I think that's why being a dentist is so valuable. We get generally a lot more free time than other
Mhm.
professions. Granted, we also put in a lot more work, and sometimes the time we have off, we're still focusing and thinking about our patients, so we can't really turn off.
Yeah.
But going back to what you originally said, I think it's tough for men and women to find that
Hmm.
balance for families, but physically for women, obviously there's a much bigger burden. And I so appreciate my boss. He was like, he has two kids.
Yeah.
Um, I was so scared. I don't know why, but so scared both times to tell him when I was pregnant of just
Hmm.
like, how's he going to react? Is he going to be upset? And he just rolled with it both times. Like the first thing he said either time was just like, congrats. That's amazing. I'm happy for
Oh,
you guys. And I think that's just such a valuable quality to have in male partners, that they just
yeah.
lead with support. Even though I know his analytic brain was spiraling about, okay,
He's like, okay. It's like,
what month are you going to be out?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and my first baby, we didn't have a discussion. I kind of just blocked my schedule, and I took 3 months off,
Yeah.
which all my dental friends were like, that is crazy. I can't believe you
Yeah.
took that much time. And then, my friends in the corporate world were like, 3 months, that's it, that's nothing. And then with the second baby, it was more of a discussion with him where he was very
Mhm.
honest with me. He was like, I'll be real, when you took 3 months last time, that was very hard for me and my family, because he's trying to keep the referrals rolling. He's trying to keep the office as busy as it
Mhm.
was. And with one doctor, he was working five, sometimes, 5.5, 6 days a week with
Yeah.
emergencies and things. And so it became more of a conversation with baby number two of trying to find something that would work for both of us. And I so appreciate again that he's willing to cover for me. But I know a lot of the women that are solo practitioners take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they get
Yeah.
back to clinic. Granted, when you're the only one in the office, maybe you open your doors just a couple days a week or part time just to keep some patients coming in, and then you can be home the other time. But
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong way to do it. You just have to figure out whatever works best for you in that moment.
Exactly what works for you. It was the same thing in residency. Like some of the gals like took a lot of time off, some
Yeah.
waited up until the last minute, went and then came back like 2, 3 days later after. And I'm just like,
It's
oh,
insane. Yeah,
yeah.
that's insane. I mean, I had told him even the second time, I was like, I want the first 40 days with the
Mhm.
baby. I think that's really key. There's a lot of cultures that say that first 40 days is a really
Yes.
sacred time for
Yes.
mother and baby and just the family unit. Excuse me, that was my non-negotiable, was just that first 40 days. And I said
Yeah.
after that time, frankly, I was very lucky. I had 8 traumatic births and deliveries, and babies were healthy. I was healthy. I felt really good
Yeah.
really quickly after birth both times. So I was like, I easily could have been physically there seeing patients. It was more just, I don't think I'd be ready to see patients in the sleep deprivation stage. Like, I
Oh,
remember I had one patient, she was gonna schedule surgery when I was like 9 months pregnant, and I worked right up to the end both times. And she ended up rescheduling until I was, a bit postpartum. And she goes, I'm a mom, so I understand. I just didn't want you to be too tired doing my case when you were pregnant. And in my head, I was like, girl, you've been through this. You should know that the first probably like 1 to 3 months after I come back from having a baby is maybe not the time to schedule, because I'm
yeah.
like the most sleep deprived. I'm like, sleep is very, very important. And I think now it's good that I'm like, okay, I'm going to bed early. I'm only up maybe once a night or so. It's not
Okay.
terrible.
Yeah.
But for those first few months, it's rough where I feel terrible. I would just totally lie to my patients when they're like, oh, how are you doing? How's the baby sleeping? I just would be like, oh, he's great. He's doing so good. Because you don't want to hear from the
Right.
person that's about to, do surgery on you that,
Exactly.
oh, I'm really tired. I don't feel
Yeah.
well today. Right. I was up all night. That's
Yeah.
not the energy you want
Yeah.
when you're about to have surgery. Right.
No, that's so tough. And then you have the two. So are they on the same sleep schedule or different, or how's that?
Ish. I mean, the baby, I think
Mhm.
he's too young to really be on a legit schedule. We try to put him to bed around the same time as
Mhm.
our daughter, like 8-ish. And we've been super lucky with her that she's a great sleeper. Like since she was 6 months old, we put her to bed around 8. We used to have to wake her up in the morning.
Yeah.
actually, we still do sometimes. My husband tries to get her up a little earlier now, like 7:30 or so, just so she'll still take a nap. That nap time is very sacred.
Yeah. Which is
So
now, by the way.
which is
This is
now,
nap
yeah,
time.
nap time. They're both napping. My husband was like prepping a bottle. He's so sweet. He's prepping a bottle just in
Mm.
case that the baby wakes up before I'm done. I was like,
Oh,
it'll be okay. I think he'll be fine.
yeah.
But he's like, no, just you go do your thing. I'll just be ready in case. So
I love. Okay, before I'm like, I want to know about your husband. Something that I also think is amazing. You've still been lecturing and speaking during pregnancy, postpartum, everything. You did CDA recently, which congrats.
yes,
That's like
thank
such a
you.
big conference. But you were public pumping, which I
Yes.
love. I was showing my whole team. I'm like, look at my friend. Like,
Oh my
look
God.
at her.
You and my mom both. So yeah, this was my second time, fortunately, to present at CDA. And my mom came both times. Last time she came with my dad. This time she came with her cousin and one of her girlfriends that they live down in Orange County.
Mhm.
And they came in with me, and I was like, right before I'm gonna start, I was like, okay, I gotta get the milk out of here. And it's really easy. Like there's so many pumps nowadays. They're super discreet. Like you just go in the bathroom, put them on. But the funny thing is, yeah, I just love the stairs because the people that have zero context, 100% just look like Dolly Parton walking around because they're pretty discreet. They don't make a lot of noise. But like I'll have them on times at the gas station and I'll be getting these looks like, oh my God, like do you see? And my mom was so embarrassed for me. She's like, Caroline, put those things away. You should go be in the bathroom. I said, why? This is not I'm very, I don't know, not shy about things, so it didn't
Mhm.
bother me. I'm like, I don't mind telling anybody I have a newborn baby at home and I'm nursing because breastfeeding is very important for my health and the baby's health, in my opinion. And that was one of my big priorities. I was really, both babies, I really wanted to be able to have vaginal birth and I wanted
Mhm.
to be able to breastfeed. And so, pumping is truly the worst part of being a working mom. Like
Yeah.
any mom I've talked to, I think they agree that's the worst part. Like dirty diapers, whatever, the spit up, the crying, the sleepless nights, no big deal. Pumping is just a necessary evil.
Why? Like,
It's just
does it?
annoying. It's
Oh,
just
okay. I
annoying.
was
I
like, does
don't
it
think
hurt? Like, why?
no, I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt me. I definitely you can tell when you're stressed, at least for me, I can tell when I'm super stressed, I'm anxious about maybe a case or a patient I'm gonna see or something in my personal life, whatever. Uh, if I'm pumping and I'm just a bundle of anxiety, like there's tiny bits of milk coming out, and then you stress more because you go, "Oh my God, I didn't get enough milk," and like Manny's
Oh.
feeding the baby like tons of milk at home, so I'm gonna come home and we're gonna run out of supply. Or if you're dehydrated, obviously you just gotta like eat and
Mhm.
drink so much to be pumping out this milk. But I realize, half the time I'll just put the pumps on and even just looking at a few pictures of the babies
Yeah.
will help so much. But it's crazy to just, you can get a feel for where you're at based on the milk that's coming out almost.
Isn't that wild? Like, that's so
Yeah,
crazy. Your body's so sensitive to
it knows
stress
for
or
sure.
happiness or something. And
Yes.
that is
It's
so
crazy.
wild.
And my mom said she had the same exact experience. She's like, "Oh
Mhm.
yeah, sometimes I'd just be so stressed about whatever." And she goes, and I would pump and it would be like not even an ounce. And she goes, and then I'd get that case done and I'd go pump later and it'd be like all this milk coming out. I fortunately don't have problems with leaking, which is a different
Yeah.
issue women have issues with.
Yeah.
That my mom said when she was nursing, like she said she would just think about me and my brother and she would start leaking. And it
It's like
was
automatic response.
yeah, and she said she always had to have an extra top in the office. I fortunately have not had that issue, but I've definitely spilled milk all over myself, so I have extra scrub tops in the car just to be safe, which is maybe a good idea anyways, just, if you're
Um,
prone to spill.
yeah. I feel like it's so good for you though. So you're like, "Ugh, just let me good for my skin."
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, it's like liquid gold and
Yeah.
just breastfeeding in general, it is, I don't know, I mean, not getting too woo woo. It's really
It's
magical.
okay. No,
The
yeah.
connection you get with the baby, but also the skeletal development and how key it is for, airway development. But it's also crazy cool how the breast milk composition changes as the baby grows. So if you're formula feeding, when they're itty bitty, you give them like 2 to 3 ounces, and as they grow,
Mhm.
you give them like 4 to 5, and then you give them like
Mhm.
6 to 8. You have to keep giving them more.
Mhm.
But if you're breastfeeding, it's always just ballpark around 3 ounces or so, maybe four.
Uh-huh.
maybe less if baby's not hungry, but your breast milk composition changes. So as the baby
Ah,
grows, the, fat and protein composition, it all changes based on what they need. And same thing if like baby's sick, it'll adapt and give more antigens for whatever baby's experiencing. And, the morning milk is different than the evening milk. So the evening milk has more melatonin to help with sleep regulation, circadian rhythms. It's crazy.
this is so wild. Like
Yeah,
I felt like I knew a lot, but I'm learning so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, like the woman, like
I
our
know.
body, I just does so many amazing, like miraculous things. This is so
Yes.
awesome. Oh
I
my
feel like I became a better provider and
God. Hmm.
understood a lot more about being a woman after having children for sure.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just womanhood in general. There's so many things we learn through experience, right? Especially
Yeah.
with women's health. It's kind of sad that there's so many things that we
Mm.
don't talk about and women don't realize our shared experiences. Until you go through that and you realize, "Oh, okay, now I understand what this person's been through." But that's
Right.
most things in life, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you don't really understand what, um, cancer treatment is like unless you or family members gone through it, or hospice
Right.
care, or, end of life dementia care, anything like that. You don't truly get it unless you've been through that,
Exactly.
firsthand, I
Yeah.
feel. I think we all try to be as empathetic as we can, but you really can't understand what someone's going through unless you walk their
Yeah.
walk.
Yeah, you need something to relate to, and then you start to see, like, with our female patients, with gum recession patients, and you're like, are you stressed? How's your ability to cope with stress? Like, what's going on?
Yes.
There's so many things, and hormones, everything is so important. It makes such a difference. Our ability to cope with stress, like you said, it just
Yeah.
as far as like Perio is related, I understood, but like for it to affect like how much milk you can produce and everything, it's
Yeah.
so well, and to
All
be
the things.
present for patients and all that. But it, like you said, it does make it more relatable. I don't know about your parents. So both your parents are dentists, yeah?
Correct. Retired
Yeah,
now, but
yeah,
they
good for
were for
them.
like 40
Nice.
plus years and now they're enjoying their life.
Living the life. I love it.
Yeah.
My dad's a GP. He's still working, living his best life. This is his version of his best life. But I feel like their generation, at least for my dad, was a little bit different. Like they were very private and they didn't share. And it was just different versus maybe I overshare, but I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it makes me relatable versus if I just like put up this wall, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if that's a totally male female difference.
Hmm.
I think it's more an individual difference, to be honest.
Hmm.
But I would say, yeah, our generation, I think, is more open with social media and things and just being who we are. But, I mean, no, my parents' offices were very different. My dad's office was in downtown Napa.
Hmm.
Great, great doctor, great office, but very like white walled classic dental office. You're in, you're out. He was efficient. He was friendly. He knew his patients. He
Yeah.
connected with them, but he was more, excuse me, for the patient that just they want to come in, want to have an efficient visit, and they want to get out of there, right?
Hmm.
My mom's office was in downtown Sonoma, and it was like visiting this house of crazy ants you didn't know you missed. It's like in this old little Spanish style building, right when you go into town, like two doors down from the OG Williams Sonoma, and it's like pastel walls. Yeah,
What?
yeah, it's like right there. So if you've been to Sonoma, you're going like right in town. It was right there. I mean, the office is still there. There's
Yeah.
two doctors there, but like pastel walls, patients art on the wall, and no filter in that office. I mean, my mom knew everything about her patients and they knew everything about her, me, my brother. I mean, I would in high school try to avoid going to downtown Sonoma because I would run into my mom's patients and they'd be like, Caroline, I'm so sorry to hear about, this or that or whatever. I was like, how do you know about that? I don't know who you are. Why are you talking to me about this? But she was the type of provider that she would just talk through everything. Like she would
Mm.
just talk, 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 talk. And she actually, at the end, she had new patients coming in that were referred by other patients, and they'd be like, okay, I want to hear the Edwina stories, or I want to hear these stories. And they started to request certain stories that my mom would notoriously tell her patients. So that was like totally different energy. And I don't know if, again, like in my family, it holds up that it's male versus female, but it could just be personality differences, right? Because
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
plenty of female providers out there that are like keep that separation
Mhm.
and just like are in and out down to business. And then there's plenty of men out there that are just like open books,
Mhm.
will give you their whole life story, and you're like a family member at their office. So I think for me, the most important thing was seeing both my parents practice so differently made me realize you can be successful being authentically you.
Right.
You don't have to change who you are. You can just be who you are, and
Right.
that's going to work for some patients and it's not going to work for others, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's what's important, right? Like the authenticity and just being in alignment with yourself, and then those patients and referrals will come to you. And
Yeah.
you can't be everybody's periodontist. You can't treat every single patient. Like sometimes it's just not a good match, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's something I struggle with and will always be working on is the um yeah, firing of patients. I've only had to let go of
Yeah.
one patient where I mean some patients they kind of just autocorrect, after the consult, like you can tell that it wasn't a good fit and they're not gonna want to do anything with your office.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's one patient I just had to tell her, I don't think I'll be able to achieve your goals, and I don't think I will best be able to serve you.
Right.
And I just kept saying that. And I just said, I don't think I can accept you as a patient because I can't achieve your goals. Um, and she told me I was vengeful and that she would pray for me.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
how many Perios are in your area?
So from like the Central Coast, we have offices. It's myself and one other doctor, Patrick Grosky. We he didn't open. He bought the practice from previous Perio like 15 years ago, and then he's kind of expanded. So we have Paso Robles, which is our northernmost location, San Luis Obispo's in the center, and then Santa Maria is our southernmost location, which is about between the three, it's about a 50-mile spread. But in that 50 miles, like we're the only people up in what we call North County, up in Paso.
Mm-hmm.
In San Luis Obispo, there's another periodontist, Dr. Lynn Sayer. She actually just retired, sold her practice to a guy, Bryce Chun. He's super sweet. Um,
Bryce, I know Bryce. I
you
went
know
to
Bryce?
school with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I went to school
I
with Bryce.
yeah, I'm on call for him. I think 4th of July. I
Yeah.
think I'm on call for him. And then our other periodontist, there's a guy in AG, Jeff Hollister. He's probably getting closer to end-ish of his career. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I'm on call for both of them for the 4th. So,
I
and
love, yes, I love
yeah,
this. Like the community within Perio.
yeah,
Love.
I mean, it's not a huge community. And then down in San Maria, our southernmost area,
Hmm.
there's one other, and then there's another guy I think that's like, so there's not that many. I think for this like 50-mile spread, there's like 5, 6 of us.
Yeah.
Not that many.
That,
So,
yeah. No, that's good. I no, love Bryce. Bryce's dad and my dad went to dental school
oh
same
my gosh,
year,
that's so
finished
funny.
same year. Yeah, and then Bryce is a little bit older than Unite, and then went back into Perio. So I
Okay.
was a couple years ahead. So then I was his attending, and then yeah, love Bryce. Oh my gosh, one of the nicest people. Where was it? AP San Antonio or Austin, maybe like a
Okay.
few years ago. Yes, got to see Bryce.
Yeah,
He almost went to Women in Pair, but I love him. Oh,
he's
it
so
makes
sweet.
me
Apparently, he has
yes.
4 kids, so he
Yeah, 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 yeah.
understands.
Yeah.
He knows the chaos. I'm like, power to you,
He's
man.
he's so busy. Like the times that we've like caught up, he's like, I can call you between this time and this time. I have a question, like da, da, da. So like I
Sweet.
will work around like y'all's schedule because it's definitely different being, working mom or working dad, which both are so
Yeah.
hard in different ways.
Mhm.
Okay, so tell me what it's like to live in wine country because I love wine.
Yeah. Um, it's great, honestly. I mean, yeah, I grew up in Napa, which is obviously
Hmm.
wine country. And then I lived in Oregon for 12 years, and Willamette Valley there is
Hmm.
pristine Pinots.
Hmm.
And then we moved to Central Coast, which we've got, Paso Robles is a huge AVA.
Yeah,
They're making big, bold California cabs, but then we've
yeah.
got the Edna Valley in Slow, which is more Pinots and a lot more nice, like white varietals. And then just south is Santa Ynez, which has, I mean, all over the board. Honestly, it's great and dangerous. We have a lot of
Oh.
patients that are winemakers, which is fabulous. We'll get our way into becoming good friends with some people that own
Hmm.
our favorite restaurant in Paso, Finca. If you're ever in Paso, go to Finca for sure. Best like low key but elevated Mexican, specifically Oaxacan food. It's
Hmm.
like
Oh,
10 out of 10 tacos. And they also, the owners, Diego and Cece, Cece's winemaker at Booker, but they have like their own little side hustle.
Hmm.
Loom wines, which is great to be friends with winemakers because I don't know, it's like a little more cool than dentistry sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But it's also fun to just, have people that'll come over and be like, here's what I just made. And you get to try it and be a
Wow.
part of that. It's really, really fun.
What's your favorite type of wine? Red or white, or both?
Oh,
Or if you like rosé, I don't know. What's your favorite type of wine?
I mean, yeah, right. This time of year, for sure, I love a good rosé with some like hot sopressata or like a spicy snack. I also love a good Sauv Blanc on a hot day.
Yes.
My parents are total Chardonnay people. Rombauer up in Napa is their go-to. It's what they call in California, they call it Danville Crack, which is a pretty like Bay Area, like very upscale area that all the soccer moms drink their
Yeah.
Rombauer. Um, and I'll get down with that, but yeah, still Pinots have like a
Good.
soft spot in my heart. I love a good GSM blend.
Okay.
And I like if I'm having a steak or Italian food, I'm like, yeah, give me the big bold California
Yeah.
cab. Like there's none that are really off limits for me. I don't really love a Pinot Grigio. Um, sorry, is that a
No, no,
unpopular
no,
opinion?
no. I'm with you all the way. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Like it depends what you're eating, depends on the season. When you're like rosé, and I'm like, sparkling or still, it makes a big difference. Like, what is
Yeah, for
she like?
sure.
What is
Yeah,
But then I'm
no,
like, okay, I think we pair it with food. But then and then when you're like, my parents love Chardonnay, I'm like, oh, like I
yeah.
just I there's some good shards, right? But like, am I gonna go and order like a buttery shard? Like, oh no.
Well, so yeah, my dad doesn't like the buttery shards. He
Mhm.
likes the like more
Crust.
acidic,
Mm.
sharp shards that are with they're like malolactic fermentation.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know. He's all into it. He's the wino of the family.
yeah.
At our wedding, he had his own case of wine that was for him and his table because he didn't approve of what I was serving the masses. And I was like, Dad, I'm trying to save you some dollar bills here. And also my friends are drinking at a different tier than what you and your friends are drinking at the
Right,
time. So,
right.
um, yeah, I love him dearly, but he's definitely, our in-house wine snob. He's the one I always go to be like, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
But I think also like, you go to France or Italy, you can get really good just table wines that don't have to be
Mhm,
expensive.
mhm.
And they just do really nice products. I think sometimes and I'm living it, but sometimes the California wine culture can be a little shishi.
I know.
Right? When it used to be like more low key. That's why I'm again coming from Oregon. I love the beer culture. It's a little more low
Mhm.
key. I like beer too, just because I drink it slower, right? Like I could
Yeah,
down a bottle of wine too
right,
easily. And if
right.
I'm drinking a beer, I'll sip it a little slower because I get kind of full.
It's the
And then,
bubbles, like the carbonation. Like I'll rarely drink a
yes.
beer. If I'm flying, I'm at the airport. Sometimes I'll get a beer, but it's so hard. So I'll put a little bit of orange juice in it, like just a splash of
Oh,
OJ.
you make your own Blue Moon,
Beer mosa, my own beer. Yeah.
a beer mosa. There you go.
Beer mosa. We're back in college when I'm like, I'm just like, I just,
I mean, if you think about it, micheladas are pretty intense, but I love them. It's like you put like a little bit of clam and tomato juice in your beer, but somehow it really slaps, right? I mean,
this makes sense.
they're yeah, like once you have it, you're like makes sense. Wouldn't have chosen it if I had known, right?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, hot summer day, nothing better for me than like a light Mexican beer. I mean, even
Yeah.
my bachelorette party, we were in Napa.
Mm.
We kicked my parents out of their house. My best friend planned the hell out of the whole thing. Like she crushed it. And this is how you know she knows me because we had, a party bus, full of all the girls I love in my life, and we're getting ready to head up Valley. And she had taken some bottles of Stromsberg, which is really nice, sparkling, that my parents always have a ton of it in their like basement. She's like, I'm
Mhm.
just gonna go grab some of your dad's Stromsberg. I know he won't miss it. It's like whatever. So she has that chilled, and they're popping bottles as we're getting ready to head up Valley. And she's like, Caroline, there's some bottles of Pacifico in the cooler too. And I was like, girl, you love me, you know me, thank you. So like everyone's there having this really nice elite
Uh,
sparkling Napa wine, and I'm like, give me a Pacifico, I'm
yes.
happy.
I love it's one of my favorite Mexican beers for sure. I love a good Pacifico.
It's so
It just
nice. It's so
it's
nice on a hot
crisp.
day. Yeah,
It's really
for
crisp.
sure.
It's nice.
So,
Love. So your bachelorette, how did you meet your husband?
we met like all great millennials online. Uh, on Tinder, I won't even lie. It was
Yeah.
not, yeah, one of those fancy apps. Like there's those, I forget what it's called. There's a fancy app now that you have to put your tax bracket and like put your tax returns and your education level and be
Hinge.
like,
Hinge is a bigger one where it's like more for like
uh,
celebs to chat.
yeah, but
Yeah.
no, we met on Tinder and my old roommate Brad actually swiped on Manny for me. So at the time I was in dental school. I lived with two guys from my class. Greg and I were both single, and then our other roommate Brad, he had been with his now wife for like forever. They were like middle school, high school sweethearts, so sweet. Um, and so we had two phones, and Greg was looking for women, I'm looking for men. And
Yeah.
so we had three people, two phones, and we'd get done studying and have a nightcap before we went to bed, and we just would pass the two phones around the circle and judge every man and woman in Portland. And it was honestly so entertaining and so fun, such a wild time of life. And it's really goes to show you should really trust your friends and the people that know you best, because realistically, I probably wouldn't have swiped on my husband,
Yeah.
which is so sad. I was so close-minded. That was just he's a soccer player, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I date soccer players. It turns out that was a great call. Great call.
But you're
Married, two
athletic
kids.
too. Like
Yeah,
you were a softball player.
I was a softball player, and I was just I think my dad incepted me at a young age. He was like, my dad's very much like football, baseball, basketball. Those are the American sports. Like soccer's not a real sport. And he would always say like soccer takes good athletes away from the real sports. When in reality, soccer is like the most internationally renowned sport, takes so much athleticism. But honestly, it took me bringing Manny into the family and having him, kick our butts at home run derby in the backyard, or play any other sport. And my dad was like, I guess, those soccer players can be pretty athletic. And then Ted Lasso really, I think, has allowed soccer to really explode and expand in the US for sure. And it was so cute because my dad has really made an effort to engage when my husband's watching soccer, especially with the kids, and like play. But once he watched Ted Lasso, it was so cute. My dad's just trying to drop his knowledge, like, and keywords that he learned. Like, we were watching an American football game, and my dad mentioned the pitch. And my husband's like, no, Don, that only works for soccer or like football. Doesn't work for
Football.
American football.
Yeah.
He's like,
Football.
nice
Like
try. I
real
see.
football. Yeah,
Yeah, he's like, I see what you're trying to do there, but it doesn't translate.
I love. What's his favorite American soccer team?
We're Timbers fans for sure.
Okay.
Timbers so we die. He played for the Timbers organization, like
Wow.
they're right below their professional team for a while, and then he worked for the Timbers
Love.
before he worked at Nike. And so when we were first dating, we still had connects to go to a lot of games, knew a lot of people that still worked for the Timbers at the time, and he would go train with the women's team as like their practice squad. And one of our dear friends, he was the strength and conditioning coach for the Portland Thorns, the women's team. He's now in KC for the KC Current, which it's just cool to see, especially women's soccer, like take off in the US, especially because the US women's national team has always been such a powerhouse. Like when we were kids, right? Mia Hamm and Granny Chastain, like that era of women's soccer inspired a whole generation, and the US has been kind of dominating women's soccer. And just now there's been obviously the push for equal pay and that whole fight that people's argument would be like, well, women's soccer doesn't bring in the same number. And it's like financially, and it's like, no, women's soccer has been out pacing the men for decades in terms of viewerships, ticket sales, jersey sales, all those things. So at least when you're trying to make that comparison in the US, it really doesn't hold up. So it's nice to see women get their snaps or whatever,
their paycheck. I love.
Yeah.
You guys got to come down. We will host. We have women's and men's soccer. Men's soccer is doing really good. Women's soccer,
In
I
San
got
Diego?
to see them. Yeah, girl.
Who's your team? What's the team?
We have FC for
Okay.
San Diego men's. We're going this weekend, so I will
Oh,
record
fun.
and post. The one player that I know is Chucky, so we'll see.
Okay.
But they were number one in the league. The last
Oh,
I looked, we beat LA Galaxy, so stamps to San Diego. And
I'm
then
like, is this a new team? I'm like, I have never even,
no,
this
it's
must
our
be a
first
new
year. It's our
MLS
first
team.
year. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it's
I
our
was
first
felt
year.
like I was taking crazy pills. I'm like, is this the same league? Is this the league down? But it's just a new one of the
No,
expansion
it's new.
teams.
And then women's team, I believe it's their second year, and we have a really lot of good players actually. Some that just
Yeah.
retired. So yeah, our soccer teams are killing it. Baseball,
Oh, I
I
mean,
know, I know, I know, I know. I know you
Petco's
love
such
the
a fun,
Giants.
I
Yes.
know, they're like,
Just come down.
uh,
I feel like we will have, I gotta go up, we gotta go up there. You guys gotta come down here. We will
yeah.
have so
I
much
mean,
fun. There's so much to
Petco's
do.
a great stadium.
Hmm.
Excuse me. I mean, last time I checked, we were like 5, 6 games back.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know, I don't want to get my hopes up, but it could be one of these years that the Giants just have a no-name team and somehow make a late run. If you just get hot at the
Yeah.
right time, that's all it
Yes.
takes.
Yes.
I actually have a very sweet patient that he's a huge Dodgers fan. And
Oh.
one of the girls on our team, she's a huge Dodgers fan because we're in the middle of the Bay and LA. So we get both teams, right? And this guy, before I went on maternity leave, he came in, he brought a little Giants onesie for Enzo.
I saw
And
it.
he's like, I got it 6 months old. So if they're in the playoffs, he's like, I put some bad Dodger juju on there. I was like, that's so funny. And I told my family, and they're like, just sage it. You're just gonna have to sage it. It'll be fine. Just get the Dodger juju off there. So it's just so fun. The way my mom explains it, she's a diehard sports fan too. It's like
Yeah.
sports just let us kind of get our crazy out collectively, right? In
Hmm.
this socially acceptable forum. And I think even if you have rival teams like me and this patient, it's just a fun way for people to connect in like a shared
Yeah.
space, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I will always love sports just because they're
Yeah.
fun and it's fun to go chase a ball around or compete. But it's also just fun to have something to put your energy into with a group of other people.
It'll be interesting when the kids start to grow up if they want to do sports or what sports
Oh,
or what's up because you and
yeah,
your
I
husband are both
know.
like super athletic. I'm sure very competitive. So it'll be really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we just golfed yesterday and it went pretty
Yeah.
well with like
I,
our baby's first time out there. We made it
um,
through 15, which was pretty
okay.
good. But we played a lot of soccer in the backyard, like after dinner.
Mhm.
The other night, I don't know, my husband's trying to just get my daughter to get interested, and I was in the goal, and she's coming over, and he's like kicks it, and I blocked it. He's, what are you doing? And I'm like, this isn't the type of house where you just score because you're a kid. He was like, well, yeah, once we've developed interest in the sport, he's like, you can't just deny her until she wants to play. So then it was funny. We had this whole discussion about uh just trying to make it fun for her right now and get interest. And then once she's like wants to play and she's older, and I was like, okay, so at what age are we allowed to just like play hard? It was just a
Right.
interesting conversation to have, but I think he had a good point that, yeah, okay, I can't just be
Yeah.
denying her because she's 2.5, but it was my inner competitiveness was like, I'm not just gonna let you score. But that was the type of house I grew up in, right?
Hmm.
I had an older brother, and I never got to win at anything because I
Yeah.
love my brother dearly, but he's the golden child. I mean, he's flipping good at everything he tries, and he's 2.5, 3 years older than me, bigger than me, stronger than me. I mean, I never won, and it was never like, let Caroline win, let her have her chops. I mean, if I came in crying to my dad,
Right.
he'd be like, if you want to play with the big kids. So I mean, my dad was also very inspiring. The pep talks I got as a kid was, Caroline, you're always going to be smaller than the other kids, and you're not going to have the pure athleticism to beat anyone, so your fundamentals have to be perfect.
Oh,
So it was like, a hard dose of reality when I'm like 5, 6 years old. But being in a household like that made, I think, honestly, like dental school so much easier because it's just constant criticism, right? Um, so that was no big deal for me. Whereas a lot of people, you go to dental school or residency and you're just constantly picked apart and
right.
everybody's used to being the best. And for me, I was
Right.
just like, this is my life. I'm used to it. I would just be like, pick apart my own work before someone else could. And I think
Hmm.
that gave me a lot of respect with a lot of instructors or mentors, just the ability to do that because that was my baseline. But I think if you play sports, you want to get better and grow, and you're always used to doing that
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
And I specifically
Mhm.
baseball. I'm gonna say one more thing. I'm sorry, I know I'm yapping away.
No, you're
Uh,
good. We're here to yap. This is what the pod is about.
if
We're yapping.
if you're having a bad day, just try to reframe whatever you're worried about into baseball stats, because then you realize, I mean, maybe it's not the best analogy for surgery, but I'm like, if you fail 2 out of 3 times at every at bat, you're potentially a Hall of Famer, right? A
Right.
333 batting average for a 15, 20-year career, especially if you can maintain that in the playoffs and postseason, like that's Hall of Fame stats. If you fail 1 out of 2 times, shoe in, right? If you're batting
Yeah.
500 for life, that's great. I mean, in surgery, we want 100% success. Obviously, any treatment I recommend, I want to have data to show that we've got 95% success rates, right? But this reality that dentistry, or the perception that patients have that dentistry, everything we do needs to be bulletproof and 100%,
Right.
is, to me, just kind of ridiculous. Like, we're dealing with biology and there will be failures, and
Mhm.
I hate having them. I don't do well when I have them, and I pick myself apart and figure out why this happened. What did I
Mhm.
do? What can I do better to avoid this? But then I realize, I go, okay, 9 out of 10 times I have a success. Great. I'm a Hall of Famer. At least I lie to
Yeah.
myself. It'll make me feel better, right?
You have to give
So,
yourself that pat on the back, 1000%. I think
yeah.
that's so important with like my pre-dental students, which is wild because some of them are dentists now. And I'm like, wow, I met you when you were applying to dental
Aw.
school and like they took classes where I grew up in like southern New Mexico. They can do a class where they're shadowing or working in the office and they get college credit. So and I was
Oh,
a
sweet.
pre-dental mentor. Yeah, so a bunch of them are now done. They were like that COVID class. Now they're done. They're
Oh,
out. They're in the community, which is so wild.
how does that
And
make you feel?
good, because now we're colleagues. Like,
Yeah.
before it was like, oh, like, let me help you get in. But they did the work. That was them.
Yeah.
They took the test, they did the DAT or whatever. They were taking the reb. It was them. So yes, I was a small part of it, but now it's like, wow, like it's so amazing. So it's so good to see some of them are specializing now, which is like
Oh,
so awesome. Yeah. Also a
I
little bit
know.
old, makes me feel old-ish. I don't
Yeah,
look old, so I don't feel old, but it's kind of like, wow.
I know.
Um, yeah, but I'm like, it feels so good and it's about that community. But what I tell like my like nieces and nephews now, or whoever's applying to dental school now, and like work on the tools to strengthen your personality and that grit and that tenacity because dental school just rips you apart. Like it's so hard. And then if you decide to go into specialty, then you're like, what was I doing in dental school? This is totally different. I learned like such a small fraction and now it unlocks a whole new door. So
Yeah,
how do
for
you
sure.
feel? Hmm.
100%. I think, again, having my parents was such a huge
Hmm.
relief the whole time, in the sense of I could always call them and get their take on it. But it also was so funny. Like in dental school, I'd call and talk to them about, like, how long should it take me to do a crown prep or
Oh
whatever,
yeah.
and my dad would be like, well, you're starting out, you're gonna suck anyway, so you might as well just get fast, and then you'll get good and you'll be fast. I was like, okay, hot take. And then my mom, she's like, I still schedule a minimum an hour for a single tooth crown prep. She's like, if I know it's a hard patient, I'll schedule an hour and a quarter. She's like, for a bridge prep, I give myself 2 hours. And she was just like, I'm not ashamed to say I take more time. But her dentistry was like beautiful. Not that my dad's wasn't.
Mm.
I mean,
Right.
so cute. He saved some like little preps that showed me and my brother. I'm like, Dad, this is really nice work. Even
Your brother's a
pre-loops.
dentist
Um,
too, right?
yeah, now my brother, he's a restorative dentist as well. And it's cute because it would be like, I'd get both perspectives of
Hmm.
whatever the clinical situation was. I would get two different answers from my parents, and they've
Yeah.
both been practicing dentistry successfully for 40 plus years. And my take home was, in dental school, the most frustrating thing was, you're learning a trade, right? We're learning how to be
Hmm.
microsurgeons. And part of it
Hmm.
is an apprenticeship, and you don't know what's going to work best in your hands. And you have all these clinical mentors that do things different ways. And it's not that there's one right or wrong way
Right.
to do things. but you unfortunately or fortunately have to experiment and figure out what works best for you. And the challenge for me is that I am so type A like most dentists, but I want my work to be really excellent and I want the best outcome for my patients and I want them to have a good experience. I don't like experimenting on people, right?
Mhm.
But unfortunately, that's kind of the nature of our world sometimes where you
Right.
always like if you want to grow and you want to expand, there will be that patient that you try that new technique on for the first time.
Mhm.
And I really struggle with that, and that's hard because I don't wanna be complacent, I don't wanna just do things the same way for 10 years, but it's really hard for me to get over that hurdle when I want to do that first case of a new technique or a new procedure or
Mhm.
whatever, that first time and get over that mental roadblock of it's gonna be okay even though I feel like, this is the first time and there's that first time jitters, and frankly, the first time you do anything, it's not your best, right? The 100th
Right.
time, the 1,000th time you do it. But in dental school, it made me realize having both my parents telling me two different things. Okay, I just have to figure out what's my way. I'm gonna do this and get over that. But I think that's a really hard part of dentistry is the and when you want to grow the self-critiquing, right? I take a lot of photos of my cases and I had to take a step back for a while a couple years ago because my husband would see it. I would just would every case I would do, I would pick it apart and I would go home and I'd just be like, I should have put a suture here. I should have done this or I should have done that. And he was like,
Yeah.
you need to relax.
Yeah.
He's like, the fact that you care, obviously you're getting good results for your patients and you're in the right place.
Right.
He was like, you're trying to grow and that's good. He's like, but you need to also realize like it's gonna be okay. And my boss even he told me that I think my first year working with him. He was like, Caroline, your problem is you're trying to do A plus work and you need to shoot for like a solid B and you're gonna be a lot happier for the rest of your career. I was like, damn,
That
uh,
hits. Yeah.
that's tough. And I was like, but it
Yeah.
is, I mean, not that you I don't and he's a very good clinician and he's like always shooting for the absolute best. He commonly uses the analogy for patients, well, I need to know what you're shopping for. Do you want a Ferrari or are you buying a Toyota? He's like, what are we looking for here? Like what level of care do you want? And
Mhm.
um it kind of tracks. But another piece of info my mom gave me early on that I think is so helpful for anybody, honestly, anybody in dentistry, but especially new grads or people in dental school that don't have as much experience, right? Never judge another dentist's work until you have worked on that patient. And that was like so fundamental. Unfortunately, my mom gave me that advice when I like first started seeing patients in clinic, but especially you see like, oh, there's like overhangs and open margins, and this work looks like garbage. And then you try to work on that patient and they're like gagging every 5 seconds and they
Right.
need this suction every 30 seconds and they're spitting and they're moving their head and you're like, oh my God, I just told them I'm going to redo this and it's worse than it was before. Right? So it wouldn't it be nice if we could just take our patient's jaws out, do the
Yeah.
work, and just put it back in? It would be so easy. Our work would be fantastic.
Yeah, no. Sometimes on my letters, I'm like, I did my best. Like,
I
I
mean,
don't know
but
what else to say. I did my
frankly,
best.
I think any good colleague that you're collaborating with, any referring doctor, anybody that knows that patient has worked on them, and it's somebody you want to work with, someone that you trust and you have mutual respect with, right? They understand that patient's nuances, whether it's with their tongue, with their cheek, with they
Mhm.
can't lean back in the chair. Also, what's up with that? The patients that can't lean back, I'm like, how do you sleep? Do you sleep in a recliner? Do you sleep upright? I guarantee you lay down on your bed. Like, can you not lay down on your bed? I don't. So sorry, that's like
No,
such a
I
pet
think
peeve of mine when people like
no,
you take them
I
to here and they're like, no more, no more, sweetie. I'm like, what
we
do you
have
want me to do?
a very different patient population for sure, like just where we live, but I'm remembering.
You're like, what is that about? So your dad's a general
Um,
dentist. Did you
my
always
dad's a
want to be
GP.
a periodontist? Did you think you were going to be a general
No.
dentist and then you pivoted? What's the story?
I didn't know there was specialists. I'm from like a small town, middle of nowhere, New Mexico. There's one endodontist, one oral surgeon, no pros. There's a ton of ortho now. Back then, there was one ortho. one Perio. They were brothers and my dad did most of the like heavy pros cases
Yeah.
and I worked in his lab. So I wanted to work at Hollister because we didn't have an Abercrombie because that's how small our mall was.
Yeah.
You could like there wasn't even a loop around the mall. It was like a strip, like a tiny little town. And I wanted to work at Hollister. And my dad's like, you want a job? You want to make money? You come work in the lab. So he stuck me in the lab and I started like pouring models, ditching the dyes. Yeah, it was like old school, like back
So
when GPs
he had his own
he had his
lab.
own lab. He had his own lab.
It's crazy.
He has two practices and then he had several. This was like when the economy was like booming and doing, I mean, he's still practicing and, you know, economy is what it is, but it was different back then. I was 14 and worked there through most of college. And then I wanted to be a veterinarian. I love animals. I don't know if you've seen, I'll post about like random animals
Oh, I
all,
know
all
about
the time.
Pearl. I also want to
Yes.
be a veterinarian. I think a lot of women in healthcare or even girls that were just good at math and science like went through the veterinarian stage, right? Or did you also go through the
No.
marine biologist stage? Did you have the phase where you wanted to be a marine biologist?
No, girl, because I lived in the desert. There was no ocean.
Okay, fair enough. Fair
There
enough. I
was
feel
no
like
water.
I know so many women that were like, "Oh yeah, no, I had my marine biologist phase and my vet stage." Why would
Yeah.
you not want to be why did you pivot from vet?
I feel like with and I've seen it with Pearl's vet too, because Pearl's vet called me a couple weeks ago, and we can at least communicate with our patients. Like we can talk to them, they can somewhat relay what they're feeling or not feeling versus with pets. There's just no way. So the
I
first time
know.
that I had a pet pass away was just like devastating to me, and I thought I can't do this for like my profession.
Yeah.
And
Same.
then I'm like, my dad looks like he has a good life. Like he goes to the office, he tells people what to do, and he comes home. Like no thoughts in my head. I was a
Yeah.
kid, right?
Yeah.
Now I know. And now he laughs about it. And so I thought dentistry, like I'm artistic, I'm very artsy, I'm creative, and I thought this is going to be a great career. I knew something science-based. I didn't think medicine. I never wanted to be an MD. A lot of my family members are, and I thought I'm going to be at the hospital all the time. I'm going to be on call and blah blah blah. Then I
Yeah.
married a physician, and then I came to find out the biggest lie that we're ever told is that
Yeah.
different.
I
And I'm
mean,
like,
there's so many
mhm.
facets in dentistry, medicine, all of healthcare. Like you can really find whatever you want. I feel like there's so
Right.
many niche roles that you don't realize. I didn't realize I think I would have been a great scrub nurse. I didn't know what that was. I didn't realize that was a job till then my residency on an anesthesia rotation. And I'm like, this person's job is just to stand here and tell people what to do. And they just command the room. And they, like, even the surgeons coming in, checking in with the scrub nurse of like, what's going on. I was like, and it's generally these really bossy females, or I should say females with leadership qualities, right? But I remember I was like, I did not know this was a thing. I could be good at this. And then when we did ACLS in residency, it was like the ER medicine residents teaching us
Mm.
ACLS. And when we just like would plow through those algorithms, they would be like, you would be good at emergency medicine. They're like, you can just like stay cool with people yelling at you. And I was like, maybe that's just my childhood. I don't know if my dad just
It's
like
your vibe.
going ballistic. And I'm like, all right, just me and my brother are like, let's just get out of here. We'll figure it out, pivot.
Was he in
So
the military? No, my dad was military.
no, but my dad's dad, my Papa Guido, who's very close with,
Hmm.
he was a first lieutenant in the Marine Corps, Marines, First Division. He was at Okinawa and Peleliu during World War II. So, and my brother and I joke and we lean back, we're like, yeah, because that's how it is at our team at the office, right? When we have new hires, I tell them all the time, I'm like, I will try to use pleases and thank yous, but I'm very direct. And when it comes to your safety, when it comes to patient safety, there's no margin for error. So if there's a error you make early on with infection control or safety, I will not be afraid to say, stop, you need to change your gloves. Stop, you
Right,
need to do this. Like even like I try not to make a lot of corrections or things in front of a patient. And it's that
right.
fine line when you're training people, right? But if it comes to a safety issue, I'm like, there's zero margin for error for that.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm same with my team, same way I grew up. I have the same mentality. I'm like, you can't learn the tools if you're shielding the child or
Yes.
person or whatever. You're like for me, my residents, if you're not allowing them to learn and grow, which is actually tough because you kind of have to watch people not fail, but
Yeah.
and same with team. I'm like, I want you guys to get to the same end goal because this is our vision, and I don't care how you do it and how it gets done, but it needs to
Yeah.
get done within these confines of like whatever,
Exactly,
you know.
exactly. You don't want to micromanage, but you want to say, this is
Mhm.
the goal, this is the expectation, it's how we get there. And I agree. I think the unfortunate thing about humans is that we have to fail to learn.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we all have learned the most from our failures. And it's really hard to let someone fail. But that's something my husband and I talk about too as parents of, we want to foster a household of curiosity for the kids and let
Yeah.
them just be curious and into whatever they're into and not be afraid to fail because it's really about learning from those failures and struggling. And it's really easy to want to step in and like you see your toddler about to knock over whatever, and it's really easy to be like, oh, let's do it this way. But we really just kind of let her do her thing and figure it out. I mean, it's so bad at the park. We have other parents that will come and like um, spot our daughter when she's climbing up things. And we're like, oh my God. We're like, we swear, like,
It's
we
fine.
are not gonna let her fall. But she seriously, like, there's this one thing she likes to climb, and she knows she can climb up it. And we go there, and she will say, "Mommy, sit," and she'll make me or my husband like go sit on the bench if she wants to climb it. Uh, and it's safe. I feel like it's fine. I mean, she could hurt herself if she falls, but it's like sometimes the fear of failure for all of us can really hold us back, right? So I think
Yeah.
if we can train our children, our team members, our mentees, whatever, of being okay with that, to training myself, right? I don't like failure. I don't
Right.
want to fail. I think that's what good mentors are there for, to try to
Right.
share their failures and say, these are the mistakes I've made, so you don't make them. But it is sometimes it's more etched in your brain if you've made that mistake yourself rather than you're just trying to take someone else's advice, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you gotta like go through it. So before we wrap up, Perio for you. How did you know you wanted to do Perio? And then how did you end up being the expert on all things CBD and THC within Perio?
Yeah. Okay. Well, my parents are dentists. I thought I was gonna be anything but a dentist. I was like you. I worked at my mom's office from when I was like 12 to 18. And after school one day, I was there working, and my mom's like, "Okay, you want to see what I do?" And I was like, "Sure." So she brings out a Typodont. She has me cut a little like class 2 prep, and then she's like, "Okay, now I want you to fill that with some." She used some expired composite. She's like, "Now fill it and rebuild that anatomy like nothing was ever done." It's like, oh, what? It's like, you're doing like arts and crafts in the mouth, mom? I had no idea. This is so cool. Um, so then when I finished college, I was either going to do Teach for America or go to dental school. My dad was like really encouraging me. He said, just take the DAT, just apply to dental school, see what happens. So I got in, and I'm like, well, shoot, I can't not go. Right. So I
Right.
go to OHSU, and I'm starting, and I'm thinking I'm going to take over my mom's practice. I'm going to be a general dentist for sure. And then I was like, maybe thought I want to be an orthodontist because I love my orthodontist, right? And everybody loves the
Right.
orthodontist. Uh, and I so tried to make myself love ortho, but I just like, I hated the ortho classes at Benny Wires. I was like, this sucks.
Right.
Um, and I loved head and neck anatomy. I could be in that lab all day just dissecting things. And I was like, I think I kind of like surgery. And my dad was like, be an oral surgeon, like you'd crush it. So I did the whole like oral surgery rounds with one of my girlfriends that was kind of an oral surgery gunner. She's a orthodontist now, actually. But she was like really gung ho, and I did my whole surgery call with them and all that. I was like, I don't want to be on call. I don't want to work out of a hospital. I stood in on some of the, cancer patient surgeries where they, take
Hmm.
part of the tibia, turn it into a jaw, like 10, 12-hour cases. And I was like, kudos to the people doing this. I don't want to do
Right.
that. I assisted on a couple surgeries for gunshot wounds to the face of,
Hmm.
apparently it's a common injury that people try to kill themselves and they don't angle the gun right and they just maim their
Hmm.
face and they're not dead. And then they have this horrific surgery to rebuild their face. So I stood in on some of those. I was like, I want to do like surgery light aesthetics in the mouth. And then I realized the world of perio existed. I had no idea. So then I started spending all my time with the Perio residents in the clinic and was like, oh, this is crazy cool. But I think nobody knows what a periodontist is, right? Even when you're in dental
Right.
school, the exposure to perio is so pathetic. I mean,
Scaring
at
and
least
complaining.
yeah, and
Yeah.
like, I mean, I love the Perio clinic at OHSU. I love all the team there, but it was like the pre-doc Perio exposure was lacking.
Yeah.
Um, and so I found this sweet spot of like, okay, I get to do these crazy cool surgeries and really help people with their smile design and aesthetics, and I still get more or less the dental lifestyle where I get to have time for my family,
Mhm.
um, and dedicate to my craft. And did not think I would be lecturing on marijuana. um, it all started actually at OHSU. We had a really strict policy for tobacco smokers who wanted dental implants. So I was a third or fourth year dental student. I must have been fourth year because I already knew I was going to residency. So I was in a fourth year. And
Mhm.
I had this patient that he needed implants, but he was such a pothead. I mean, this guy was smoking nonstop. And we had an implant board at OHSU where it's like, if you had an implant, you had to plan the case with your wax ups and everything. And then get the CBCT. And we started, not till I was in residency, we started doing guided surgery. So at the time, it was just like wax ups and then like we'll suck down guide,
Mhm.
right? But then there was that lunchtime like implant board with all the oral surgery, perio residents. There's no PROS program at OHSU, so it's the pre-doc dental students and like the
Mhm.
implant faculty, restorative faculty, presenting these implant patients. And if someone was a smoker, you had to go through like verify you went through the smoking cessation protocol. The patient had to sign extra consents if they weren't able or willing to quit smoking, right? So I was going to bring this patient to the implant board and I was like, but he smokes a ton of weed. What's our policy? And the implant restorative director said, I don't know what the data shows, Caroline. Why don't you look into it? Here I am almost 10 years later, still lecturing on it just from that one patient of asking a question and then diving into and realizing there's not great data on this topic. Nobody knows what to do with these patients. I think now people are starting to realize it's like, smoke is smoke and smoke is bad. Most people that do
Yeah.
enough surgery are just like, you don't want your patients smoking anything, right?
Right.
So that's really how it started was that one patient that needed some implants and was smoking like a chimney, like a lot of patients in Portland. And
Mhm.
it kind of snowballed into this thing that I keep saying I'm gonna stop lecturing, and then I just keep getting opportunities, and each time I go, well, okay, okay. But it's fun. You get to make all these connections, and a lot of times it's fun travel and go to great places.
Yeah.
And if just one person learns something, it's totally worth it.
I
So
think so for sure. And back then, like it wasn't legal like it is now, and so you
yeah,
couldn't do the research on it, right? So I think that's why it's such a hot topic because you're one of the first like early adopters. But I feel like this is so you too. Like you ask a question and then someone's like, figure it out, and then you have
yeah.
to figure it out
Like
for
yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like the question now have in Perio that I think is so fascinating that I've always thought about, like the whole world of probiotics. I think it's
Oh
such
yeah.
like a mixed bag and kind of not the Wild West, but like conceptually, it totally makes sense to me that we have patients with oral dysbiosis, right? Their ecosystem is off. Something's not right with their mouth. And instead of just giving antibiotics, if we can reseed their oral microbiome with the right combination of bugs to get them to a state of health, why are we not doing that? My problem is there's a bunch of products out there and I don't know how well vetted they are. I mean, one of the probiotic companies just rep contacted me because she said, I heard you dropped our product in your lecture at CDA. And I was like, I actually didn't, but I probably just made a blanket statement about probiotics, how I support them. I think there's really promising research, but I think a lot of the products out there, they're just like one or two bacteria. I'm like, the oral
Right.
microbiome, I'm not an expert in this field, but I'm like, find an expert, bring them on the pod and ask them these questions of, can we really influence taking someone from a state of disease to a state of health with just supplementing with like one or two bugs? I personally don't think
Yeah.
it's that simple. But I also am like, why are we not studying healthy mouths? Right?
Right.
Like we
Oh,
all have those patients that do jack. They do nothing to take care of themselves,
right.
yet they have a really healthy mouth. They don't have any perio, they don't have any caries. I'm like, why aren't we studying those mouths to see what's going on with those people and how can we
Right.
apply that to our disease patients? Because I think there's something there. Like in the GI world, they're doing fecal transplants, right?
Right.
where patients that have really bad Crohn's or IBS or other
Hmm.
things, they're taking like healthy stool samples and putting it into the diseased patients. I'm like, it is so much easier to do a saliva transfer than a fecal
Mm.
transfer, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
people do it every day when they're making out.
Right.
So I don't know. That's where my brain goes. Those are the questions I want answers to. So anybody that's listening that's in academia, send me a message. I've got plenty of other questions that I want answers to that I personally don't want to do the research for, but I have a lot of big picture questions for sure.
So that's
That
my next question. Who would you like to see on the pod next?
oh man. Um, I mean, I feel like you gotta hit all the OG scrubs and scalpels girls. Like we
Oh, for
gotta
sure.
get Hoders, we gotta get Kelly,
Yeah.
and Summer. Like
Hmm.
we need all those girls,
All the
100%.
girls.
Um, I would try to get maybe Dr. Kumar if she would do it. I mean, I
I
love her.
just
She
saw
was
her in Michigan. Yeah, I just saw her
right.
at she's the probiotic lady.
I know that's why I was like, can you get her to just like get just
If I was to
dive
break
into
down.
the probiotics topic because I would love to get her take on all the products out there. I would love
Hmm.
to get her take on also like the oral microbiome testing that's available because I'm so
Hmm.
curious and fascinated by it. But the skeptic in me is like, they just want me to pay for this test so that I will buy their probiotic because they're selling a product. And that's how I feel about a lot of products where I'm like, I would love this if this really was something that I could apply to my patients and be like, hey, like we do some oral DNA testing, but
Hmm.
I've also, side note, I've wanted to take my own saliva, send it to oral DNA labs. I hope they're not listening. But put in like accurate, like clinical health data, send it off, see what they send back. And then I want to send the same saliva from the same mouth and put in a bunch of like bad perio data and see if the results are the same or if they just look at like,
I'll
oh, there's
beef it
7+
up.
millimeter pockets. Of course, there's like above threshold levels of this and that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how skeptical. And I
Yeah.
don't want to say I don't trust all these companies, but I'm like, we
Oh
know
no, I'm
the
so anti. I'm so anti
well,
probiotics. I'm so
the
anti
data
DNA
from
testing. Like,
was it like Mulatto or their group, whatever they did that where they sent like the same samples to different labs, got different results.
yeah,
They sent the same
yeah,
sample to the same lab, got
yeah.
different results. So I want to believe in that stuff. I want to say there's a test we can do that's gonna say this is what's wrong with your microbiome and there's how we can change it and fix it. But I'm just so skeptical that it's these companies just trying to get you to buy their specific product that you have to have a subscription for the rest of your life,
Right.
right?
1000. I think perio is so much more complicated. Like your oral biome is a small piece of it, but then it's your immune system and how your immune system's responding to the bugs. Like your
Yes.
threshold is different than my threshold. I have lupus, so I'm gonna
Yes,
maybe have some
exactly.
oral manifestations every once in a while. Women, men,
For
Latinos,
sure.
blacks, like it's just so complicated, which I think is why I'm so obsessed with perio because I'm like when a patient comes down for a consult, I get down with the health history. I go through
Yes.
everything. We CBCT every patient. And I'm like, okay, it's such a tool for me. We're looking at sleep apnea, we're looking at TMJ, we're
Yeah.
really breaking down. I ask about stress, ability to cope with stress, what they're using for flossing, how often their recalls are, their labs, vitamin D level, and all this
All
stuff.
the things.
Yeah, I spend 1 hour on a consultation for every single patient. They get
Yeah.
my full attention
Yeah,
undivided
for
for
sure.
1 hour.
Yeah.
Perio, so like, so I guess it's that
You
perfect
can't do
blend
it.
between like medicine and dentistry.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also the blend between you're a surgeon, but you're also an internist. And it's that battle of
Yeah.
like, when do we go into surgery? When do we just try to manage where you're at with behavioral
Hmm.
modification, diet modification, all these
Hmm.
things? But it makes it, I think, really interesting and fun. And we've talked about in our practice having maybe a tiered brace approach because we schedule an hour and a quarter for new patient exams because it
Hmm.
takes oftentimes 15, 20, 30 minutes to or for our assistants to just get info from the patient and then
Yeah.
we need a quality time with them. But we've talked about having like, okay, platinum level tier, it's a 3 hour consult. You get a cone beam,
Hmm.
you get a intraoral scan. I mean, we're not doing facial scans, but we've talked about the future of dentistry very well could be at a general everyday office. Like patients get a cone beam, they get a facial scan to just have a baseline record of what
Yeah.
their skeleton was. God forbid they have a car crash and we need to reconstruct their face. We have that data on file.
Right.
Like that could be in 10 years the standard of care. Who knows? But
1000.
I've digressed. In our patients, it's like, if you want to do a really quality, thorough exam for a perio patient and they're vested and they will say, I'll do whatever you tell me to get healthy. Yeah, we need like an exorbitant amount of data to really dive into all these things. And we don't often have the time or the like bandwidth to get into it with all these patients. What's your sleep quality
Right.
like, right? What's your vitamin D levels? All these things. I need a complete blood count. And like the Dr. Grosky and I, we've talked about possibly getting functional medicine degrees because sometimes we're having these conversations with patients that MDs
Right.
aren't even having. Actually, my
Right.
brother and I, we share a patient, and she asked my brother, she was like, "Do you think your sister could be my primary care doctor?" And he was like, I don't think so. He's like, but that's a question for her. She asked me and I was like, I was like, it's out of my scope of care. But it was sad because she said that I had asked her more questions about her health, her diet, her stress, all these things that no physician has talked to her about in the past 10
Right.
years. And I don't think it's a failure of physicians. I think it's a failure of the system. They don't have the
Right.
time. They don't have the
Right.
bandwidth. The system is
Right.
not set up to actually care about people's health and wellness.
Yeah.
Which we do a whole separate podcast on that topic,
I know.
right? So let's get somebody on here. Let's ask them about probiotics. Let's ask them about oral
Okay.
microbiome testing. Um, what else? I mean, God, there's so many questions I have that aren't answered.
Love. I love all the questions. I think you and I practice, we have a similar thought process and we practice really similarly in the
Yeah,
way we break down consults and everything. But
yeah.
I'm with you. Sometimes I'm like ordering labs and I'm like, Yvette, who asked you? Like, stop being so nosy. But at the same time, I'm like, I can't do my job if I don't know these things, you know?
Well, yeah, and if you genuinely think that's a concern for that patient and you're the only
Yeah.
person advocating for them and looking into it, like once you know these things, you can't not know. And it's so frustrating, right?
Mhm.
Because we feel obligated. I think if you're a good provider, you want to have go down these rabbit holes with patients, whether you have the time to or not.
Yeah.
And some patients, they really vibe with that and they want that level of care. And some patients, they're like, not going to do anything we ask and they don't care
Yeah.
and we can't care more than they do, right?
That's true.
Which is still hard for me to accept for sure, but I'm learning to of like, okay, they're not showing up for themselves. I can't
You
try
can't.
to I can't force them to um do more than they want to do, right?
Yeah. I love that.
So,
All right, friend. Well, thank
all
you
right.
for hopping
Yeah,
on.
thank you for having
Princess
me. Oh
and the
my
Pod.
God.
No, I love. Sorry, we were overdue. I didn't want to bother you on your birthday weekend when we scheduled
Oh my
the
God.
OG podcast. I was like, it's her birthday. I'm gonna just leave her alone.
No, all good. All good. Like, never a good time for all of us, right? Everyone's busy. They've always got
Yeah,
so much going on. So we just got to find a time. I'm glad we
just
did
so
it. This was
busy.
so
Yes.
fun.
Yes,
It was
I
good to
had a
talk.
blast. It was good to talk. It was good to see you. And then I would love to have you back to keep.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm
Obviously
like,
I
what do we
can.
call it? Blabbing.
I was
Keep
like,
blabbing.
no, my team says they're like myself and our other doctor, we are yappers, and so they
There we
just
go.
know
That's her yapping.
they're like if they know they just like you can see them they're typing notes, and then we get onto a hot topic of sleep apnea or vitamin D or whatever, and the patient asks like the patient engages and asks a question, and I can just see my assistants like, here we go. But it's like when you have patients that are engaged and they're asking good questions, it's like, great question. Let's answer that. Let's get into it. How much do you want to know? What does the
Mhm.
data really show? So, God forbid somebody ask me about charcoal toothpaste or what mouthwash
Oh,
they should use. I was like, you want to get into mouthwashes? Okay, here we are. So, um, I can digress and onto any
water
topic,
picks, everything.
all of it. I'm just like, okay, great.
Yeah.
So, I'm talking about OHI next time. Get into those topics. So thank you so much. Say hi
Okay.
to
Thank
Pearl.
you,
Give her
friend.
lots of
I will.
cuddles.
She's such a brat. Okay, I will. Okay.
All
Bye,
right.
friend.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.